I will read the chapter to you. When you hear this sound, turn the page. Chapter 1, A Look Back, A Brief History of Photography. Why do the subjects in old photographs look so miserable? Why do you think this is? In this unit, we will gain an appreciation for the foundation of photography as a science and an art form. It is necessary to see the development of photography from its traditional stages to its more modern digital processes to accept the continued changes within this medium. Chapter Learning Targets. Analyze the development of photographic tools. Analyze the impact of photography during the Industrial Revolution. Decide how photography will function in the future as a result of technological advances. Section 1.1, The First Photographs. Pre-reading vocabulary. Silhouette, flat shape. Exposure, leaving a surface open to light. The men and women who made photography what it is today built their contributions one upon another in a solid progression of accomplishments. The results of their efforts are enjoyed even by those who pick up and use the most simple camera. The first camera was known as the camera obscura in 1544. This was not actually a camera as we know it today. It was a room with a single small opening to the outside in one wall. Artists used the device to achieve the correct perspective demanded of Renaissance paintings. Inventors began working on other developments that led to the photographic process. In 1727, Johann H. Schulze discovered that light darkened a solution of silver nitrate. By 1802, Sir Humphrey Davy and Thomas Wedgwood soaked paper and leather in silver nitrate, laid objects on the sensitized surface, and exposed the arrangements to sunlight. This gave them silhouettes, later called photograms. Click on the photogram picture right here. This is an example of a photogram created by a student in Photo 1. Photograms will be our first darkroom experience. Here is a student sample. Can you determine where light is hitting the image? Click back to the page. In 1816, Joseph Niepce, using a camera obscura, would create the first successful experiment. He posed a pewter plate coated with a tar-like substance called bitumen of Judea. The substance hardened when the exposure was the greatest and remained solvent where it received the least amount of light. The plate was washed in lavender oil and in unhardened areas were washed away. The exposure took more than 8 hours and the sun shifted, resulting in unrealistic shadows and forms. Niepce continued to work with the technique until he produced the world's first photograph. The picture at the bottom of the page is the world's first photograph, created by Joseph Niepce, titled View from His Window at Le Gras. It was taken in 1872. Louis Deguaro worked with Niepce to improve this technique, which Niepce called heliography. Deguaro accidentally discovered a latent image in 1935. A latent image is an image that is invisible until it is processed. Years later, in 1839, Deguaro perfected his process in which he could produce a permanent positive image by sensitizing a silver-plated sheet with iodine fumes, exposing it to light, developing it over mercury fumes, then fixing the image in a concentrated salt solution. This image was called daguerreotypes. Daguerreotype photographs became popular in response to demand for portraiture from the middle classes during the Industrial Revolution. Oil paintings as portraits could not be produced fast enough, and this proved to be more efficient and accurate. However, daguerreotypes still required long exposure times. The photographic process was still a long distance from the instant image that people were searching for. American scientist John Draper was able to create a daguerreotype portrait in 1839 with an exposure time of only a half hour. Portraiture became still more popular, but the process was considered cruel. It required the subject to remain still, unblinking and staring into direct sun. The head was held still with a special clamp, not exactly the experience we have when taking our school pictures. English inventor William Henry Fox Talbot began working with paper soaked with silver chloride. In 1839, Talbot announced his process, calotype, which allowed him to make multiple copies of a positive image from a single negative. Talbot worked out the outlines of traditional photography as we know it today, a negative positive process based on the light sensitive properties of silver salts. Photography has become a great distance with the contributions of great people intrigued by the idea of freezing a moment in time. The first photographs. Click on the link below to demonstrate learning of this unit. At this point, this link will not work. You will click the link that can be found in your iTunes U titled History of Photography.